Next up, ladies and gentlemen, we have, who needs very little introduction to this crowd, I am sure, the Mark Passio. Welcome to the show. Mark, how are you?
Patrick, thank you so much for bringing me on. I'm well.
Man, okay, so if there's one person that over the 7 years I've been doing YouTube on both of my channels, Disenthrall and now Anarchast, I have had, I think, more requests to invite you on the show for a discussion about ethics and moral philosophy than anyone else. And so I think we might have to follow up with you later to bring you back on to do a long-form discussion on that. But today, we have...
Well, that's interesting. I'm surprised to hear that. But anytime you want to do that, I'll absolutely take you up on it.
Awesome. That's excellent. Okay, see, I'm using this for networking. You guys think it's about y'all and Anarchapulco, and I'm just kidding. So you have an excellent speech at the event. Can you kind of give us the rundown on what you're talking about?
Sure. My presentation is called The Deadly Pandemic That's Killing Anarchy. And people will be probably sort of a little bit surprised to hear that that is not the COVID-19 alleged pandemic. It is a mental pandemic. It is a pandemic of belief. It is a pandemic of the mind. And I get into what the characteristics of this pandemic are. It looks like a computer virus. It spreads similar to a computer virus. And it is infecting even the anarchist community, unfortunately. My presentation takes a little bit of a slightly confrontational vibe with the modern anarchist community because I like to gauge movements, groups of people who are basically trying to put out similar ideas and come to a common goal. And our goal is not to be ruled by psychopaths in our world, not to be ruled by anyone, to rule ourselves and to basically operate in a voluntary capacity with our fellow human beings. I have to gauge, the goals of that movement or, whole ideology in the world by what it's actually achieving, by what is happening in the events of our world. Are we accomplishing those goals as a movement, quote unquote? And I have to be honest with my findings. I have to be honest with the dynamics that I see in our community and in our world. And I don't think we're accomplishing those goals. And I think there's very specific reasons why we are not. And I think it's because of a lack of the understanding of the moral philosophy that must underlie anarchism, true anarchism. And I think one of the biggest things that I still see going around in the anarchist movement community, however you want to look at it, is the prevalence of what is known as moral relativism. The idea that there is no such thing as objective morality based in objective truth inherently in nature. And when we take on the religion of moral relativism, I call it a religion. I don't even call it an ideology or philosophy. It is a false religion to me. When we take on this religious notion that there's no such thing as objective right and wrong, built into the very fabric of reality, we're setting ourselves up for complete failure from Jump Street. We're setting ourselves up from failure before we even begin, because this constitutes, I should say, a lack of understanding of natural law. And natural law is what is ultimately going to direct the dynamics of either freedom or enslavement in our entire world. As morality, as an objective understanding of morality, and then people in the aggregate choosing right action over wrong actions. As that dynamic increases, that is how freedom increases in the world. It's a law that's built into the fabric of reality. And conversely, as we ignore objective morality and we, as a whole species, behave in the aggregate in immoral ways and condone immoral behavior, we become collectively more enslaved. I call this dynamic within natural law the law of freedom. And this is basically the crux of my entire presentation. I do not believe it has aired yet in the live streaming lineup. It's probably coming up shortly.
Okay. So when you say objective morality, there's not many people that I think are using objective morality and defending that position out there anymore. You seem to be a dying breed, so to speak. I want to make sure when you use the word objective, I've heard people use the word objective morality three different ways. One is objective as in it exists as part of the fabric of reality, which sounds like what you're using it to mean. I've heard people say objective as in applies to all humans, whether or not those humans want it to be applied to them, or even whether or not those humans even know the objective rubric that you're discussing exists.
That as well.
Okay.
I am of that position as well, both of those.
And then the third way I've seen objective used, and this is what the way I use it when I talk about objective morality, is objective as in anti-subjective, meaning it contains no elements that are based on feelings, emotions, time and place in the universe. It functions the same way in all times, places, locations, between all humans, everywhere. You know, the universalizability. Man, 15 minutes is not enough time for this.
All of those things.
I will turn that into a prompt to you.
All of those things.
Okay.
Yes, so, absolutely. I would agree with every one of those things as far as objective morality is concerned. Natural law is a set of laws that are universal, non-man-made, inherent to nature. They are immutable. They can never be changed. They are eternal. They exist in all times and places. And these are the laws that actually govern whether an entire species is going to create a situation in which they are either free or enslaved and then have to live in that reality. These are the real laws of manifestation, the real laws of attraction, not the fake New Age laws of attraction about feeling a certain way and then you get the physical things or situations you want in the small aspect of your life and your egoic desires. That's not what I'm talking about here as the laws of attraction. The real laws of attraction is as an entire society behaves morally according to the laws of objective morality, that society becomes free. And as a society ignores those laws that are built into the fabric of nature and just does not care about what objective morals are and continue to behave in an immoral capacity, they go deeper and deeper into bondage as an entire species. And that's what's happening. That is what is happening in our world because more people today are moral relativists than are not. I've done social experiments and I talk about them in the presentation that I do for Anarchapulco 2021. I've done social experiments in many different places where we ask the question whether people believe that morals are dependent on people's perceptions and feelings or whether they are objective and built into the fabric of nature. And overwhelmingly, we get the same results. 2 out of 3 people are moral relativists. And that's why society can never be free until that changes. A society based in moral relativism can never be a free society. It is an impossibility according to the laws of the universe. It cannot occur. And this is what many people, even in the anarchist community, certainly in the public at large, but even in the anarchist community, most people are still ignorant to these laws and how they function. And until they learn them and learn them well, and understand that these are the governing dynamics that drive either freedom or enslavement, nothing is going to change. Not for the better, anyway.
You and I are in absolute agreement on moral relativism. It is, people talk about it as if it is its own moral philosophy, when in fact it's the absence of moral philosophy. It is a Hobbesian state of nature. It is to say that you can whack me over the head to take my meat is a state of nature. It is also a moral relativist position. If they want your meat and they deem through their own personal subjective moral mishmash that they have a right to take your meat and they whack you over the head and take a meat, and then they justify it by claiming that they're just obeying their moral relativistic philosophy, they're just reducing themselves to a state of nature being. So yeah, we absolutely agree there. I look forward to hearing how maybe you can give us, we have 6 minutes left. Can you give us like a really quick summary of where specifically, like when you say these laws of morality exist in nature, can you send me a picture of them? Like what proof do you have? Like where's the evidence of the moral laws actually existing in nature?
Great question. And I'd like to make an addendum to the moral relativism, exploration that we were going down in a moment. But that's a great question. These are unseen laws. They're not something that you're going to. It's not like throwing a ball up in the air and it has a trajectory depending on how hard you threw it, and you can measure that, and then it comes back down to the earth, and you could observe gravity, right? And you can measure that. It's a physical dynamic. That's physical. that's in physics, physical dynamics. Okay, these laws are not based in physical dynamics. They are based in mental dynamics. They are laws that come out of mental energy that we put forth into the universe, and the universe actually acts as a mechanism similar to a mirror that reflects those mental dynamics back to us, purposes of our learning and growth. The proof, quote unquote, okay, and it does constitute a form of proof, is the measurement of how free any given society is based on their historical behaviors, based on a dynamic over a large swath of time. See, that's what makes it difficult to gauge. Real karma and karmic law does not work as it does in the cartoons, unfortunately. Somebody doesn't do a bad thing to somebody, say steal their money, and then they walk outside, and as soon as they walk out onto the street, a piano falls onto their head like it does in the cartoons. That's not how karma works, unfortunately. The laws of morality work in such a way that they are stretched out over periods of time, so that as an entire species engages in immoral behavior and the condoning of immoral behavior, such as the slavery of government, over time, those people and their progeny become more and more controlled and enslaved. So it's a difficult thing to measure, to see. This is why it is an occult law. It is an occulted law. That means hidden from our eyesight. It is hidden from view. We have to dig deeper than just the physical measuring implementation that the physical sciences have brought down to us. And we have to go into what I would consider the occult sciences. The occult sciences are sciences of the mind. They are sciences of the psyche, and ultimately they are the sciences of spirit. This constitutes a science of spirituality and a science of morality, really. And it can be measured by the observable and repeatable effects that we experience in our world. That is how it can actually be measured, as can many other things can be measured by their effects, which may not quite be able to be seen. We can't see, radioactive particles, okay, but we can measure the effects. If it's exposed to people, they can get radiation sickness. It's very similar to something like that, where it's not very readily seen. But if we measure the effects over long periods of time, we can understand the trend.
Okay. Excellent. So in about a minute and a half that we have remaining, we have a question from Stephen, who asks what I was just about to ask you. Where can we be directed to learn more about these laws of the universe?
You can go to my website, which is whatonearthishappening.com. I have a podcast series that constitutes currently 236 episodes. I really recommend highly that you do not skip around in these episodes. I recommend that you take them in order from number 1 all the way through and progress to number 2, 3, 4, etc. And don't skip around. It's laid out very specifically and meticulously in a stepwise progression. So each episode does not stand on its own. It's built on prerequisite knowledge in the previous episodes. And I list resources there in the podcast. There are links that you can download whole books on these topics and explore further on your own. The podcast is, as I said, a tapestry that is meant to be taken in as a whole, and an entire new worldview will open up to you. And part of that worldview I talk about in my presentation here at Anarchapulco this year about moral relativism, this idea that objective morality doesn't exist and people can just say right and wrong or whatever we say they are. And when we head down that path, we are basically exposing ourselves to a mind virus. The moral relativism is a plague. It is a mind virus, and it constitutes a deadly pandemic that if we want to see real anarchy ever express in the world as the human condition, which it absolutely should be because it's the only moral position that no one rules anyone else, we have to completely heal ourselves of this plague of moral relativism.
I think we're going to have you back on for sure to have a meeting of the badass goatees. Sir, thank you for joining me. It's been a pleasure. We will.
Patrick, thank you so much. It was great.
Yes, sir. Talk to you soon. Thank you.